First, a little bit about Norwegian EV Association. We're an association organizing owners of electric cars in Norway. We now have more than 40,000 members. So these are people that have bought, private people that have bought an electric car and are members with us because we are working to promote the shift, and also because we do an important job helping them with all the questions that they have. Because this is a new technology. It's not difficult, but it's something new. And people have a lot of questions about charging and about the range of the car and how can I go this way and that and how do I get there. So we have 3 people answering phone calls and emails with all the questions that the consumers have. We are currently 14 employees, but we've been growing really fast. So we're continuing to hire new people. And that is because we are also more and more working internationally. There's a lot of attention to Norway, and we get a lot of visits and a lot of people wanting to learn. So we have a lot to do. And 20 years of experience. The organization is actually 21 years old. And in the beginning it was started to promote electric transport, and in the early 1990s already. Of course, in the beginning there was no employees, it was more the citizens' initiative to help this shift, and it took quite some time, but now it's finally happening. Okay, a little bit about Norway. Norway and Costa Rica is in many ways quite similar countries. We have more or less the same population, about 5 million people. We have more cars than you do, but then we also have a country that is 6 times the size of Costa Rica. And a lot of people actually, this is the capital Oslo, but a lot of people actually live around the whole country and obviously are quite dependent on driving a car. As Costa Rica, we are close to 100%, or more or less 100% renewable electricity production. We're actually going to have more than 100% coming up to 2020, which means that we also export renewable energy to other European countries. So, like in Norway, like in Costa Rica, it makes perfect sense to promote electric transport. Okay, so some numbers. Market shares. So this is the percentage of new cars sold in Norway each year. So just to give you a little bit of explanation, BEV is battery electric vehicle. So that's a full electric vehicle. You can only charge it with electricity. Whereas a PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, have both systems. You can charge it and go to a certain extent electric, but you can also fill it with diesel petrol. So, my main point is that the sales of electric cars in Norway, the development has been really, really fast. Look back in 2011, the market share was less than 2% when it comes to battery electric vehicles. We were still ahead of many other countries in the world today, but you see the development it's been really, really fast. I'll come back to the policies that we have in Norway, the incentives that we have, but most of them have been in place already from the early 1990s. But there weren't that many car sales, even though we had those incentives. And why was that? Because there were no cars to buy. So around 2011-12, then we started to have the possibility to buy different electric cars. The Nissan Leaf was introduced at the end of 2011, and then more and more models were introduced, and then people started buying the cars. Okay, next slide. So we now have, just actually the last month, we reached 150,000 electric vehicles in Norway, and include then plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles. So this is by the end of March this year. So we have 150,000 EVs running on Norwegian roads, and going to Oslo, for example, or the other bigger cities, you will see electric cars everywhere. It's like walking around in a living electric vehicle museum. So it's I think it often, even though if I travel to other European countries, for example, to do presentations like this, even though I talk to people that have a lot of knowledge about electric mobility, it's still difficult for them to understand what Norwegians are understanding. Because we're standing in the middle of it. We see it, we experience it. For us, it's becoming normal. In other countries, it's still something that is part of the future. But I think my most important message for you is that it's not future, it's just help this and it will be here. And if people can see it, it becomes real. And it is real, it's happening right now. Okay. For the geeks here, the car geeks, are there any of you here that are into cars? Yes, some of you. So these are the cars, I'm talking about battery electric cars here now, fully electric. These are the sales last year. So the topmost model sold was the electric Golf. Actually, Volkswagen in Norway has gone in only 2 or 3 years. They've gone from selling non-electric cars to, for example, when it comes to the Golf segment, they now sell 80% of the sales are now plug-in hybrids or full electric. And that happened like this. In just 2 or 3 years, it happened like this. So it's been an immense change that has happened really quickly to Norway and to the market, but also to the car importers and the car salesmen. They have to learn really fast. But they also think this is really cool. And I think often in many other countries, people tell me that if they go to a car dealership and ask for an electric car, they're just looking at you like you're stupid. But in Norway, this is the real thing. So they are actually now the car dealers that don't have electric cars, they're in big trouble. They're not happy right now because they are losing market shares. Okay, so the Nissan Leaf has been in sale now since 2011, but it's still selling really well. BMW i3, you have that here. I've been driving that today, here. Tesla Model S, you're all heard of Tesla probably. But my point is there's quite a few different car models. And if you go to most other countries, you wouldn't get all these models. Because Norway is actually quite prioritized by the car producers because we're sort of we've decided we're going to go for this. And that's why they also want to come and be in this mature market. And I think that this is also important for Costa Rica, that if you sort of raise your hand and say, hey, we want to incentivize electric cars, then the car producers also might prioritize Costa Rica more than other countries. Okay. So change can happen fast. Back in 2012, the parliament in Norway, they said that they had a goal. Okay, so we want to reach 50,000 electric cars in 2020. And nobody thought that they would actually, that would happen. And then in April, that's when it happened. So 50,000 battery electric cars. And then December last year, we celebrated 100,000. So it goes really quickly when you get past the early mover stage, it starts moving really quickly. So today, 3.7%, this is by the end of 2016, 3.7% of all cars in Norway are now battery electric. So still, it's not all cars, by far not, but this is the total market share is higher than most other countries' market share of new sales. Yeah. Okay. If you look at some different regions, for example, Sør-Trøndelag, who lived in Trondheim? Isn't there a woman here that lived here? Yeah, there you are. She lived here and she didn't freeze, did you? No, not too much. It's quite cold here. Anyway, both these regions, they have now 4.4% of all cars are fully electric. And if you go to the Oslo region, it's now 6% of all cars that are fully electric. And one more. And Hordaland, this is where the second biggest city in Norway is, Bergen. 6.8% of all cars are now electric. So it can happen quite quickly. Just in a few years, it changes. Okay. I also thought I'd show you this. This made the international news in March, beginning of April. Suddenly, half of car sales in Norway are either battery electric, plug-in hybrid, or normal hybrid. So 50% of car sales in Norway by the end of March is not a normal gasoline or petrol car. What do you think this message is sending to the car producers around? They're afraid, and this is something that a small country like Norway can actually do. So it was in all international media. And if I had shown you the same number for Oslo, these two pieces of the cake is 50%. So 50% of car sales in Oslo so far this year have a plug. And this is before the technology is totally mature. The range of the car is still a challenge, and frankly, I think that still we need we need a policy for the cities, especially the cities. We need public transport. We need to facilitate cycling and bike and walking. But I don't believe that we can get people to stop driving, especially not outside the cities. And that's why we need to do something with the type of cars that we drive. So first of all, if we are to reduce CO2 emissions, we need to do two things. We need to produce more renewable energy. The other thing is we need to produce cars and other products that can run on renewable energy. In some countries, it makes more sense than in other countries right now, like Costa Rica and Norway. This is the newest number, 2000. Actually, I think we have 2015 numbers now, but almost newest. Transport is the biggest emission. That's where the biggest emission is. So, of course, we have to tackle it. Costa Rica and Norway, we cannot close down a coal-producing plant. We don't have any. So we cannot do that. Actually, in that way, we're a bit unlucky. Germany and the other countries can do that. What can we do? We have to tackle transport, first of all. If we are to meet our goals when it comes to reduce CO2 emissions, we need to tackle transport. And we should do it right away. If you look at transport, private cars is the biggest emitter in Norway. So you could, of course, try to get every one of these onto bikes, but I don't think it's realistic. So we have to change the vehicles people drive. We need to change it to electric cars. And that is what the politicians in Norway say and want, because they are very ambitious when it comes to reducing CO2 emissions. We are to reduce our emissions with 40% by 2030. It's quite ambitious. So there's no other way, we have to do it this way. Okay, next slide. The Institute of Transport Economics in Norway have done a lot of research on electric mobility, but also on transport as a whole. How can we reduce emissions from transport? They've calculated a lot of different things. For example, could we halve the price of public transport? Could we get even higher prices of petrol? The thing is, people need transport. So although you put more and more taxes on petrol, for example, people will still drive, at least to a certain extent. So all the calculations show that electrifying the passenger car fleet is the single most effective greenhouse gas abatement measure in Norway. That is what works. So why not just do it? Of course, it works slowly because it takes a lot of time changing the car fleet. That's why it's even more important to get this change to happen fast. In Norway, the cars are on the road for an average more than 10 years on average. So, or their age is more than 10 years on average, but they're on the road for an average 19 years. So they're quite old car fleet. It takes time to change. Okay. So, the key is support. Buying a car is the second most expensive investment that you do as a consumer, right? After buying a house or an apartment. And consumers are not stupid. Even though they're very environmentally friendly, you cannot expect from consumers to pay thousands and thousands of dollars extra to buy an electric car that they're even unsure of. They don't know this new technology. That doesn't happen. You need the early mover people, maybe, but to get more people onto this, you need to get the price more or less level with the fossil option. And that is what Norway has done. Norway have a sort of a bonus-malus system. Polluting cars are taxed a lot. Zero-emission cars are exempt. And because fossil fuel cars are taxed so much, we're one of the countries in the world with the highest taxes on cars, these cars now actually more or less compete. An electric Golf is actually even a little bit cheaper than a normal Golf in Norway. And that makes, this is the first thing, this is the first point. Because people, you cannot expect from people to pay loads more. But in addition to that, so we also have quite a few perks, like incentives. For example, you don't have to pay for public parking, for example. And all of these incentives are there in a phase to help to introduce the new technology. Nobody's saying that we will have these incentives forever. This is to help a shift that is very difficult to do, because it's such a big, it's a big thing. It's a bit different than with an iPhone. Getting people to buy an iPhone is a little bit easier than to change the whole transport sector. So I think that with more and more countries doing this, helping with policies, with people starting to buy the cars, we are also telling the car producers that this is what we want. Okay. This is my street in Oslo. The city of Oslo actually put chargers on the street around in Oslo. This has been to sort of help visualize that this is real, that this is happening. So it's a Nissan Leaf charging. Anyway, so this is already what I've said. We have a bonus-malus system. Heavy taxes on cars we don't really want, and no taxes on the cars we want. Okay. We do surveys among our members, or among the EV owners in Norway. They really enjoy driving electric cars, and I think this is a little bit is not focused on too much. But driving an electric car is fun. It's fun. The best thing I know is if I drive an electric car and I get a red light at an intersection, and next to me is like a fancy sport car. Because I know, even though if I'm driving a Nissan Leaf, which is pretty practical sort of electric car, I know that I'm going to beat that sport car. Then from 0 to 50 kilometers an hour or something, it's instant torch. So everyone, try an electric car. It will be possible next weekend, right? To try one. It's fun, and I think this is an important message to tell the public. This is nothing that is bad, this is good for you, it's more fun. Okay. And what happens then is that electric vehicle owners become ambassadors. We ask them, how many in your social circle do you think you have convinced to buy an electric car? And half of the people that have answered the survey have owned the electric car for less than a year. So on average they say, well, I at least convinced 3. So word of mouth and seeing your neighbor or your brother or someone driving an electric car means you're starting to think too. And that is how it works. So if you, for example, if you're at work one day and you get to work one day and one of your colleagues is like, in Norway it's like this, they brag, I bought an electric car yesterday. They can't stop talking about it because they're so eager about it. You're not doing the same if you bought like a big petrol or diesel engine car. It's not that cool. So this is an important message, because if you help the transition in the beginning, it will eventually spread, because you're helped with ambassadors that EV owners are. Okay, I think I'm going to jump the charging bit just really quickly. In Norway, we started with the incentives, so people started buying the cars. We didn't really have any charging stations. That came eventually, but now we finally have a plan. So all main roads in Norway by the end of this year will have a fast charging station every 50 kilometers. So that means that you now can take the car on longer trips without a big problem. This is a lot easier in Costa Rica. First of all, you don't have the cold winters that we do. So you don't have, the range goes down on the cars in wintertime. Also, this country is 6 times bigger than Costa Rica. So it's a lot easier for you to put up fast charging stations. Cargadores rápidos, algo así. Okay, continue. I have to hurry. So right now, we can go look at this. My most important point is that initial support for charging is important. Because when there's no market, there's no money in offering the service of charging. But what we're experiencing in Norway right now, we just reached a bit more than 100,000 full electric cars. Now, money is starting to talk. We have that business model now. So now it's a competition to put up fast charging stations. So to look at the next photo. Next slide, sorry. So this is world's largest fast charging stations opened outside 1 hour north of Oslo, September last year. 28 cars can charge here at the same time, 20 Teslas and 8 other cars. What you don't see in this photo is the restaurant on this side. That guy, he was smiling. So now the service providers in Norway, McDonald's, petrol stations, people offering services along the road, they are now, finally now, they're understanding that there's money in offering charging. Because while you're here charging for 20, 30 minutes, you go inside and you buy something. So now the petrol stations change and everyone is now putting up fast chargers. Okay, so Norway shows that it's possible. We get a lot of attention. I think Costa Rica can do the same. Costa Rica can take the role in Latin America that we have done in Europe to show that it's possible also for a Latin American country to be in front when it comes to electric mobility. I've been doing interviews with absolutely everything of international media. BBC 3 times, China Central Television, everything. There we get about 2 or 3 international visits a week at my organization. It's so much interest in what is going on in Norway. This is the Minister of Transport from Austria, who was visiting a few months ago. So a lot of people are being inspired by Norway. So politicians in other countries want to follow. Okay, next slide. But even more importantly, I think, you could say, okay, Norway is a small country, 5 million people. What does it matter what we do? If we start driving electric cars, that doesn't really help the reduction of emissions that much. And also, a lot of people have previously been saying to me, well, why the car producers in the world, why don't they don't care about Norway? We only sell 130, 40,000 new cars a year, but there are also car producers that currently do not have electric cars. They are frightened by Norway, because Norway is showing that to consumers. If they offer these cars to an affordable price, the consumer wants it. Car producers have traditionally been saying, we don't want to make them because consumers don't want them, they don't buy them. Well, we have shown the world that they do if they can afford them. And then of course you have the newcomers in the market, like Tesla. This is actually a year ago from today that Elon Musk was in Oslo. They are also scaring the traditional OEMs, the car producers, because they are showing that they can do this. So they are waking up. So up until a year and a half ago, I think most of the car producers were still doing this a little bit reluctantly. They didn't really want to, which is perfectly understandable, because this is a paradigm shift that is most probably also will be quite hurtful for this industry. for two reasons. Because they've invested loads and loads of money in the traditional motor. They know this, they know how to do this. Secondly, they have also big apparatus, that takes care of the aftermarket, fixing your car afterwards. With an electric car, there's not that much to fix. So this is big changes that is really difficult for them to embrace. And they have all the reason to do it as slowly as possible. But then, countries like Norway is showing what they do. Tesla is coming, and not least, Chinese car producers. They are really into the game now. So now the traditional OEMs, they know that they really now have to step up the game, and they have woken up the last year or so. They've woken up. And I think that's really, really cool. This is the CEO of Opel from Germany. These 2 days ago, they had the world, presentation of the Opel Ampera E, which is the same car as the Chevrolet Bolt. In Europe, it will be sold as an Opel Ampera E. They had the world launch in Oslo. They have it right now. In Oslo, who would launch a car in Oslo? I mean, as I said, we hardly sell cars here, but they do. And so they have a whole week, they pulled 200 journalists from all over Europe to come to Oslo. And this is the board of Volkswagen, the world's largest car producers, visited in June last year, came in with a private airplane, came to Oslo, spent a whole day to learn and to see and to talk to us, to understand what is going on. And you all know now that Volkswagen is really invested and are planning to produce a lot of electric cars in next years. Okay, next slide. So, we're facing a paradigm shift. You all know Kodak moment, right? Kodak was even the company that invented the digital photo, but they knew that this would hurt their own investment and how they were earning money. So they said, oh, we will not do anything more with digital photo. And this is what happened. And as you all know, Kodak went bankrupt. And this is, I think this is something that will happen to quite a few of the traditional car producers in the coming years. It will, if they don't. I think some of them will make it, but definitely some of them will not. Okay, next slide. So, I'm getting there now. Another message for you is, it's not just about producing the cars. Electric cars have a whole system of infrastructure surrounding it as well, where there is also money to be made for countries that are early on in the development. So we're talking charging, we're talking digitalization, a lot of things that is going to be developed surrounding the electric cars. And I think for Costa Rica, Latin America is still quite atrás when it comes to the development. Costa Rica can use by being first, Costa Rica can use their experience, putting on charging, learn, invest, and then next year you go to Panama and you invest in other countries. So there are business opportunities surrounding this. If you're not part of it, this will happen anyway. So you could decide whether you want to be on the wagon and be part of the change, or lag behind and not be part of the economic benefits. Okay, next slide. So Costa Rica, in my opinion, can take a leading role in Latin America. First and foremost, you have 100% renewable electricity production. This makes all the sense in the world to do it. Furthermore, it's a lot easier for you to do this than for Norway. Again, you don't have our cold winters. And also, the difference too is that now you're going to be helped with technology as well. Because now cars are being produced with longer range, and also prices of batteries are coming down. So you will be helped. But to get this going, it's actually quite easy to take the leap from the early mover stage to the early mass market. You saw the slide that you showed earlier, and my last slide. That is the big hinder. So to help with policies, to help with a clear vision politically that this is where we're going, that will probably shorten the transition with many years. So being first is smart. You can earn money that way. But it's also more fun. I'm talking about the media attention, and I haven't talked that much about tourism, but for Costa Rica, I think this is obviously something that is very important as well. I've been a tourist for 1 week before I came to San Jose. Went to Monteverde and Arenal and the coast. It was really nice. I only missed driving an electric car, which wasn't possible. I was driving a Toyota Rush. It wasn't that much fun. So it makes perfect sense to offer electric mobility to the tourists coming here with the green tourism that you offer. Okay, last slide, I think next one. Yeah. Some statistics, for those of you that are nerds again, this slide is quite this page is quite interesting because this is where you get all the data from the different European countries. And also our association webpage, but it's mostly Norwegian unfortunately, but you can use Google Translate maybe. And then Nordic EV Summit in February next year will be held in Oslo. Welcome for you. Those of you, it will all be in English, not Norwegian, so it's possible to understand for most of you. And I hope that maybe in about 2 years, I will be invited to the Latin America Summit in San Jose. Why not? Wow.